Pencil. Pencil. 5:35, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll just go straight through till we get to the consent agenda. Brad, is there anything else you need to add for that?
That's not, no. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Then moving second to adopt a consent or approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? If not, Don?
All in favor?
Aye. Motion passed 5-0. Moving on to old business. Number one, the amended fireworks ordinance discussion. So Brad.
So, the April 14th commission meeting, we had discussed the sale of fireworks within the city limits of Hiawatha. And we had sent out a draft ordinance for everybody, just for comment. And so we got those comments back. What we're looking for tonight is kind of some of the restrictions that the commission would like as far as to where the fireworks can be sold, the conditions, just things like this. Just a little further guidance. So in order for us to get the ordinance right and just finish up the sale of the fireworks.
Right, so I think mostly I drafted that proposed ordinance restricting the stands to zoning districts. I don't think that's a good idea now after we've had time to talk about it and go over that. For example, the schools are zoned residential 3, believe it or not. So if we prohibit residential districts totally, the school wouldn't be able to have one, or fundraiser club in the school parking lot, something like that would be, I think, an ideal location that's away from residential structures. They have large parking lots, things like that. So I don't want to do it by districts anymore. There's so many exceptions, and we're working off a map that is probably, I don't know, 50, well, I don't know if it's 40 years old at this point. So we had such a variety of responses. We kind of wanted to nail down where we want to sell, where we're going to allow these stands to be. Because like when I envision these seasonal fireworks, and when we did this meeting last time, we thought the fire marshal would be approving seasonal fireworks stands. I apologize. The state legislature changed that law right before our last meeting. So fire marshal no longer will kind of inspect these seasonal fireworks stands. They're only going to do the permanent year-round stands that are now allowed by law. So it's up to us to kind of govern where we want to put these things, what restrictions we want to place on them. I think on the dais in front of you, this is a list of it's a checklist the fire marshal did use. Patrick sent that to us after he had a chance to look at the ordinance and make some recommendations on safety requirements. So I think the big one tonight is if we can lock down kind of where we want them to be established and what other restrictions we want to impose, we can bring one back. Since we're doing this in the public meeting, those groups that want to go ahead and get this process started will at least have an idea of where we're at so they can make arrangements for distributors and things like that. I think we still have time to get it done. So I guess when we talked about it, Brad and I talked about it, I talked about it with some other people here at the city staff. Like they are what I foresee, like a tent or a shed or another structure that could house that kind of inventory. We wanted to kind of keep them out of the residential neighborhoods. So in my mind, the places that immediately pop to mind are First Street has a couple of those properties, some places with larger parking lots. The school back there on Lodge Road would have lots big enough. Obviously, Oregon Street west of 12th would have those. Iowa Street west of 12th would have that kind of stuff. My proposed ordinance had most of Oregon Street. If there were going to be any storefront, kind of those wouldn't necessarily be a seasonal fireworks stand, because I don't know that there's a lot of empty buildings, but perhaps there would be. So there was a variety of responses to that. So Brad and I decided it's just best to kind of get some input from you guys where you were looking at, and we can bring something back for the next meeting. But since we're in a public meeting, people can watch this on YouTube and then kind of know where we're at, so they can get started if they want to apply for a permit once it's all set up.
Could we just have it that our fire chief approves it?
We could. Yeah, I mean, we can do anything we want to. So that being said, yeah, we really could. Yeah, sure. That's putting a lot of kind of responsibility on one person in the city. One of the other things I talked about is I would like to prohibit them on city-owned property. I don't think that would be appropriate, just because you can't say yes to somebody and no to somebody, and then things like that. So
the form that you guys have is the form that is supposed to be done by the city official, fire official, when those tents go up. So you allow them to go up there, they'll make the time, somebody with the fire department will make the time to go do the inspection.
Just have it so that he checks it out, and if he brings it to, if the commission needs to approve it or whatever.
Well, and then we put this in so the city clerk can approve them. Like most of the licensing requirements and permits the city clerk issued without having to wait on the next meeting to come back. This would be the same. Like I said, I hesitate for one person to have that kind of control without some direction from the city commission. I'm sure he doesn't want that either. That's why we thought we put it.
See, the fire department gets a kickback from each one, then we'll start to be suspicious.
But and the other thing would be that, really nobody would know whether their permit was going to get approved until they made the arrangements, got a distributor lined up, and then came in and one person said no. So
Yeah, I definitely would rather see it in stone in the ordinance instead of putting it on one person to make that decision.
and as far as the checklist goes, we can make that part of the permit requirement and just make sure that they know that they're subject to inspection.
Yeah.
And they have to meet those requirements.
And is there a limit on how long the permit lasts?
It's a 17-day window. The new state law is a 17-day window. It didn't used to be that long, but it's open June 20th and it closes July 7th. So if they're going to be a seasonal fireworks stand, and that's the wording used in the statute, then they can only be open for that period of time. So it's a 17-day window.
But when can they get the permit? If they know that,
I
hey, in
assume
6 months I'm gonna do
as soon as
this,
this ordinance is published in the paper, they would be able to come in and get their permit.
so.
And we put in there, obviously, if they want a waiver of the permit fee or something like that, that has to come to the commission. Dawn doesn't want that discretion. I don't think she should have that discretion either. So.
And this inspection would have to take place prior to their opening for sales or.
I mean, if we told them these are the requirements, the fire chief is the one that's actually tasked with the inspection. So I don't know that it would have to happen before they open, but I'm sure Patrick would like that just for safety reasons, to make sure they have the fire extinguishers, the exit, the egress if something happens, so everybody can get out fast.
When the fire marshal did it before, we were already open. We just knew at some point they were gonna show up, and you didn't know when, you just knew it was gonna happen, so.
Don, I didn't dive into the statute
It's brand new.
Okay, so, and I didn't dive into that either, but I know historically, previously, when there was fireworks stands for sale in Hiawatha, they were subject to inspection at any time,
Mhm.
not just opening, but at any time. So if you were to show up there and you didn't see a fire extinguisher, and there were 6 guys smoking at the register.
I mean, we never had it done before. The 10 years I did it, there was nobody who came in before we opened. It was always a day or two after that Lamar or whoever would show up. So, for whatever that's worth, but I said it's a new ordinance, new thing, or new
Yeah, it's
law,
brand
new
new.
thing.
This happened, I think, April 8th was when all this was passed and it was brand new and we kind of found out about it after I told everybody how easy this was going to be because the fire marshal would do the inspection. So that's not going to happen.
Problem I have with this form is it sounds like they need to be up and running and then have an inspection. So I wouldn't want to have like this be, so someone gets their stand all together, they bring this form in and then the location isn't approved. So and also purchase of Kansas distributor. I think a lot of guys are getting them in Missouri. So I don't know if that's.
Well, I permit, the way we have it designed is they have to give us the name of the distributor. That's a tax thing and we're interested in the sales tax, not necessarily the tax it takes when they bring stuff across state lines.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. Do they have to show that they've got their sales tax?
Yes, they'll have to show that they're either exempt from the sales tax requirement or that they have the sales tax license. So. And we built in a $500,000 liability insurance policy requirement. That's the same as it would be for the discharge of fireworks. It's the same we have for food trucks. And although I know it sounds like it may be an expensive thing, I don't think for that short window of time, that kind of a policy is super expensive. I think it's, what did you say, Becky? Something they'll make back.
Oh, they make it back in
first
their
sale.
first purchase.
So, so especially with that shorter window, it'd be more like an event type policy that necessarily wouldn't be as expensive as you would expect for a year round liability.
And they'll have this checklist before they even
Yeah, in the checklist,
know what it is.
whatever we decide, if you decide to go with the checklist, we would hand that to them at the time they applied for their permit, so they would know what the requirements
Yeah.
are when they set their tents up.
Yeah, and that's why I wondered how long ahead of time could you get the permit? So, I mean, they can do everything, they can get everything in place.
Sure, we haven't put a window or a time frame on the permit. I suppose if somebody came in on July 2nd and wanted to do it, they could get a permit because as long as they meet the other requirements. But I would say as soon as this ordinance is passed, if people want to come in to get their permits, they would be available. So as early as the first part of May, they could get those permits and start locking those down.
I mean, I would like to see us make it pretty concrete on where fireworks stands are allowed.
Yes.
I mean, I just think that would be better. I am not a fan of having it in the main business district of up and down Oregon Street.
Me either.
I mean, is it going to blow up? Most likely not, but there's still a chance. And to me, I don't think it's worth it. Not when there's other places that they can go. That was the biggest concern I had. Like if the country club wants to do it, I think it's fabulous. If the school wants to, I mean, obviously we're taking the Fisher Center out of the equation since we don't want to do it on city property, but
That's something I would recommend. Like I said, that's kind of up to you guys whether you want to do that.
and if they want to do it outside of city limits, then it's not
And we
our
don't
concern
have
at all.
those. Yes. And the other thing to note is there's no unspoken for land in the city of Hiawatha. So obviously whoever wants to set up these seasonal fireworks stands is going to have to contact somebody that owns the property to get permission to do it, which I don't think we need to be in the middle of either. That's, I think, frankly, their business. If there's a landowner that supports a certain fundraising group or even leases for cash or however they want to do it, I think that's their business. We don't need to be in the middle of that as long as the operator has the requirements that we set out.
Well, the best place would be along First Street, and that's where you're gonna get the most traffic, most people, most noticeable. But so anyway, I don't know how you write it up, but to me, that was the only real limitation that came to my mind. I don't know what the rest of you all felt.
That's Walmart's parking lot belongs to Walmart.
Yeah, so that's in they're zoned I-2, I believe. But kind of like if you looked at the city, like I said, along First Street, kind of anywhere, and we can also put like 100 feet from a residential structure requirement if you want to do that too, which might be easier, like Lodge Road behind, like on the east side of First Street, I think has open lots, not necessarily sheds or anything like that, but they have lots. The hotel parking lots, for example, would be fine. I would say any annex property that's not contiguous to the city limits, that would be the country club or what used to be the Elks Club where Kansas is now. You know, they have bigger parking lots, not next to a residential area.
Kansas is out of the city limits, isn't it?
I think they're
I don't
in.
think they're annexed. I think the country club's annexed, but Kansas isn't.
Okay. And that could be. I thought maybe they voluntarily,
It was.
I think they voluntarily came in a few years
Okay.
ago. But they're not necessarily contiguous to the city limits either. And, you know, so that's kind of why Brad and I talked about this, and Brad said, we need to come back and get some more direction from the commission. So it doesn't sound to me like anybody has any problem with allowing the sale. We just need to know these kind of details so we can lock down.
Or we just say something, you know, parking lot, but then have also something in there just saying that commission approval otherwise, so that you don't, like, my building, one of my buildings is not zoned commercial, but it would be a good place to have a fireworks stand.
Right. And then, like I'm saying, the school's not zoned that way either.
Right.
It's just the country club is apparently not zoned at all. So I don't know how it came in without zoning, but we did that. So we couldn't find the zoning requirement for that. So I don't necessarily want to tie it to zoning because there's so many variances that we've passed over the years. It would be really hard to kind of lock down those properties. I think if you were more comfortable with, 100 feet from a residential structure or
I like
something
that.
like that. I mean, we
Yeah.
already have it in there.
Make it more of a wide
Like,
open.
we already have in the 100 feet from the gas stations or
Yeah.
bulk fuel storage. So like I said, we can do anything we want to do. We just need to know what you guys kind of the consensus is, and we'll bring something right back and we'll get it passed, and people at least will know so they can start making, like, I assume people that want to do this will have already contacted distributors and have already started setting that up. So. But yeah, we can do whatever you want to do. We can let them. We don't really have any retail sales in the residential areas. They're not set up that way. So they're not. I guess I would prefer to stay away from places that already aren't, necessarily retail type districts, but because that's what these are. They're just retail establishments. They're just pop-up retail establishments.
I mean, so it almost looks like if we used First Street as one of the borders and you go east of First, you can find some of those bigger properties. And then if we went, west of 12th, then once again, then we're staying away from all of our businesses downtown. I mean, that's just an easy way to look at it. I'm not saying that's what it has to be, but
That's what I was thinking.
So yeah, this
if I would include First in it, I would say First Street
because
east.
there is some lots on
Keep it away from any houses.
East Oregon Street,
Mhm.
up by the hospital and things like that. But
My thought is I wouldn't want to just limit it to someone having to buy a tent, because
Mhm.
I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't want to buy $15,000 worth of fireworks and then have to do.
Oh, it's
like tonight.
yeah, it's way better. That's why I did it for 10 years, because I could lock the doors and go home. I mean, otherwise you're paying somebody to stay the night and all that, because.
Right.
But I said, I firmly believe I would not want them near our businesses. I just would not.
Put something in there about keeping away from houses, 100 feet or whatever seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Because there are some houses here and there. in Some of these areas.
Well, I don't know that we have to dictate parking, but that is a concern too, because just a lot of people having to park on side streets.
Yeah,
It's only a week.
I guess
so-
if you can get 5 or 6 cars in, it's probably, or somewhere close, there's not going to be the need for 100 cars at one time, but
But you Like I said, it's only a week. I mean, that's not a deal breaker for me in any way, shape or form. I'm just making noise.
I'm assuming on the fireworks inspection list, that it would list out what the aisle width should be, how many egresses there should be.
It does on the backside.
Putting that over.
No, wait, let me turn it over. Yeah, me neither.
But yeah, so if the commission wants to use this checklist, we would just give it to the applicants when they get their permit, so they know what they're expected to do. Yep.
It's good to me.
And what are we gonna do about the Kansas licensed distributor? I mean, are we gonna say it's okay if the Missouri?
No, this is the old checklist, because you can see the dates are wrong right off the top. So this isn't a requirement anymore.
Okay.
It's what they used to do.
I think this is a good start
Mhm. Oh, absolutely.
or
That's kind of what
draft to work from.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I'm not opposed to somebody using it it's a taxation issue, and that's it's a Department of Revenue thing. We'll let them handle that with them. So, I mean, our records would always be subject to, if the Department of Revenue wanted to make the request, we comply with all those requests, like when the county gets our golf cart list, we make them file the request and pay for it, but it's an open record. So
100 foot might be a little far just because they allow you on this to be 50 foot
Yep.
from a gas station.
they say 50 feet in here. We were working off a couple other city ordinances when we wrote the 100 feet. It doesn't have to be 100 feet. I just don't, we don't want to put it in a gas station parking lot. That's
Right. So how do you want to word it then?
Like I said, like when Brad and I were talking about this, and I talked to Dave Wilson, we talked about corridors, but we wouldn't have to do that. If you just simply want to limit the distance from a residential, I don't know if you want to call it a house or a residential structure, we could do that as well. That would be really limiting on where things could go. If you limited it by distance from a house, that would shut down the few blocks of First Street that are not zoned business. They're zoned residential, like by the tennis courts. That's a residential zoning. But that wouldn't necessarily exclude, a couple of parking lots along there, like especially the ones on the north side of town. They're huge parking lots. If it was a tent, but there's really not a lot of these empty sheds or empty buildings that are big enough. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if there are. And I don't know. Like I said, we put Oregon in the original one. I don't know if I don't think there's as many empty storefronts as there used to be, but I don't know if anybody's got an interest in that either.
So what happens if somebody comes in and wants to put one at First Street Bar and Grill? There's a liquor store attached to that, so do we want to try to allow that or limit it, or is that? I'm just throwing out an example.
Yeah, that one, the parking lot's pretty smallish. I don't know what.
Well, there's housing pretty close
Yeah,
to that.
there's a
too.
housing right behind it.
Behind it.
So,
Mhm.
I don't know, Brad, if you have any thoughts on that either. So,
I really don't. I think that if we added, like we said, if that we have housing that's right behind that, I think that would, if we put a restriction on distance to residential, I think that could encompass that.
Okay.
Any input from the fire chief?
Light the fuse.
And run. So does that help a little bit, or do you still need some more clarification?
if you want me to, if we want to write it, just they can't be within a certain foot from a residential structure, we can do that. That's fine.
Then can we at least have
like
something in there just saying something else like commission approval? I mean, we don't want to
Well, the commission
somebody
can,
out
I mean, the
there.
commission can always make an exception to an ordinance. I mean, we do it for things all the time. But that's, if somebody wanted to do that, that's something like Dawn would have to deny the permit and then they would have to appeal it or get on the
Okay.
agenda to come up here. I just, when our clerks write permits, I don't like there to be a lot of discretion there. There shouldn't be. Dawn doesn't want the discretion. She doesn't want to say,
She just
well,
wants to
maybe
write the permit.
write it or deny it. And then if they don't like it, they can come to you guys. So.
But how would she know when to deny it?
Because they're going to give us the location. It's part of the permit. And if it's not 100 feet from a residential structure, she'll deny the permit. If 100 feet is the number you're looking for. So,
But they're also going to have to be told.
well, I think we just tell them that's part of the requirements when they take the permit, and then Patrick and his guys and gals will have to do the inspections. So
Is it so many feet from the residential property or the actual building?
you tell me. So if you want to gauge 100 feet, what do you think the front of this building across the street is 100 feet?
Pretty close, yes.
That's pretty close to 100 feet. I think Oregon Street's 80 feet wide, give or take, but I think our easement is 100 feet, which I think is building to building.
I'd say property line. I thought.
Yeah, they could have cars or something parked in their lot, I guess.
I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know what the rest of you think. Or what do you think?
I'm thinking building to building.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
Property
the
lines are,
city marshal says 50 foot, so.
50 foot to what though?
Yeah,
From the gas and storage. So 50 feet from a gas station. So we can write the ordinance that way too. We just, like I said, we use, I don't know, this games. Looked at a couple of different existing city ordinances.
if you do it by property line, that's going to be an issue because there's a lot of places that don't know the
Where the lines are.
exact property line and you can run into.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm building,
Some
building the building.
issues.
I think building the building would be okay.
It would be
Residential.
concrete.
structure.
How many
Where it's at.
Right.
That is residential structure, residential structure.
You gotta come up and talk in the microphone.
He loved that.
First recommend structure. Unless you're having it in the structure. You know, you're talking building to building,
From an, it's
Just- it just-
adjacent.
just a structure, not residential home. I mean, because you have, barns, shops, anything like that in town.
Yes,
So,
yes.
I wouldn't just say it's,
It's tough downtown too, because some of these are residences, these are that way, so there are some residences. But we can do, yes, like adjacent structure. Something, just, we'll get that figured out.
I like that too.
Yeah.
How many feet? 50 feet or 100 feet? Building to building.
my thought is that if something across the street could be easily under, could be easily under the 100-foot criteria.
Mhm.
So you couldn't have something on one side of the street that's a parking lot and a house across the street. You could be within that 100-foot.
Within that 100 foot.
So it might be a little bit,
Like you'd have to set it back far enough, because typically the streets in this town are at a minimum, they're 40 feet.
Yeah, 40 to 60 is pretty common.
So most of like in the original town property, most of them are 40 feet. Like you have Miami and Iowa, which are 60. Those are the wider streets. So most of them are 40 feet. So if you want to gauge kind of where we're at, that's what most streets in town are.
So cut it in half, 75 feet,
yeah, it's just 70, you'd be pretty
75
close.
feet. Sounds
75
good.
feet, building to building,
Structure to structure.
structure to structure.
Yeah.
Then I might have you go through this checklist. Is there anything on the checklist that you don't want? We're not going to worry about the Kansas distributor. That makes a little difference to me. The only, because we do have illegal fireworks in there, so there are. Everybody in Northeast Kansas knows the good stuff you can buy in Missouri, you can't buy here. So
What, if the fire chief were to go in, make an inspection and determine aisle width is not correct, or is that an immediate shutdown
I
until it's,
Good question.
I would think,
taken care of?
I would think he's gonna have some discretion. If the aisle widths are 47 inches, I'm sure.
Right, and those are things that could be, addressed and
Mhm.
corrected at that moment in time. Now, if there's something on those checklists that is up for debate, then I would say code enforcement, law enforcement would be involved
So
because
you, under the ordinance, you would have the right to pull the permit.
You'd have the right to pull their permit.
thanks. Perfect.
Yeah, I just want to know if they failed their inspection, you walk in and they failed their inspection, what's the repercussions to that? Is that as soon as it's fixed, call me and I'll re-inspect it?
Could be.
I think that's what I'd
Like I said,
do.
I'm not anticipating an overwhelming number of these.
No.
in town, but maybe a couple, three.
Yeah, if they show up, if they open the doors and there's no fire extinguishers anywhere, that's a red flag. I would,
I think the fire chief should have the authority to shut it down if they,
Under
don't.
the
if
code
they,
ordinance, he would have the right to pull the permit,
and
making
then
it illegal.
re-inspect and go again.
So that would be in tandem with law enforcement who could write tickets.
Okay.
So are bottle rockets and skyrockets not permitted?
In Kansas. Not in Kansas.
Well,
Yeah.
that's no fun.
No, yeah, well, you can't, so you can't borrow your fights. We all did, just want to put that out there. We did ours across a highway.
And then if there were a situation where somebody applied for a permit to have it somewhere other than First Street and Dawn denied it, they would be able to file an appeal, come before the
Well, yeah,
commission.
really what Don would do is just put them on the next agenda.
Okay.
Address it. It's not really an appeal, it's just kind of.
Okay,
yeah,
That's fair enough.
because it's very difficult to, I mean, there is a situation, he's got a building that's open, it's down here, it's not a tent. I'm sure somebody'd love to put fireworks in there, but if it's not in our ordinance, I just wonder how that would be addressed.
Well, like I said. bring it
Yeah.
up. So,
Yeah,
I mean, there's just not like the structure of vacant houses, there's just not a lot of them in town.
right. I was just thinking of different vacant places that somebody might want to use.
Yeah, we went through kind of street by street. Like I said, it's unfortunate, I think there's gonna be a lot of tents or parking lot structures. So I think we got what we need.
I do, yes.
So we'll keep this on old business and we'll have something out to you so you can pick it over and we'll take some more comments on it.
Okay. All right, thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
thank you.
Can we also look at possibly allowing fireworks from noon? Sorry, my allergies are killing me. Like noon to say 8 o'clock or something on the 4th of July itself.
I mean, we can do, yeah, whatever we want to do.
Just one, maybe like one afternoon, not even at night, and see how it goes for the first year.
In it. We voted on it last week or last meeting that we weren't gonna allow fireworks, so.
That was actually to just wipe it all away. That was the motion. I guess what I'm looking at now is just having one day. Actually, the 4th of July, and most people will probably be in Robinson, honestly, and. Like I said, I had people reach out from Fall City and neighboring towns, and it's just not ever an issue. It just seems like this has been going on a long time. We could at least do maybe one day, and I think we're going to find out that it's just it's just kids doing it with their parents. So that's why I'd like to just at least say the 4th of July, maybe let's try it and see how it goes for just one afternoon. And not even do midnight, just do 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever it is during the day. Because my biggest problem is there are people that have fireworks but don't have the means to get to the lake. And that has been the complaint that I've had every year. And I don't know how much, do we have a lot of trash out of the lake?
Normally it's not too bad. I mean, normally, I would like to say that the public really does do a pretty good job most of the time. People do take care of their own trash. We go out there, we get it the next day. It's really not that bad.
Well, or possibly even the third, because that's before our fireworks celebration. And so people can let fireworks off with their kids before, and then they can go up and watch the fireworks uptown. That's also going to keep everybody basically not letting fireworks off once nights, because they're all uptown. I mean, we have fireworks that we're letting off for the people, and I would like to see that the people can actually let fireworks off in their driveway, just in the afternoon.
Mayor Schaefer, may I add one more thing?
Sure.
So obviously you're well aware, my family stepped away from Hiawatha for 5 years. We lived in a town in Jefferson County. They allowed fireworks to shoot off for 3 days, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. After the first night, after the second night, it was really annoying. Just going to say that, but while I was there, I was on that fire department as well. Those 5 years, I never got a fire call in that district. Now, I will say that generally every year we have to go out to the city park because somebody sticks a smoke bomb in a knot of a tree and a tree's on fire. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, you know, you let them shoot fireworks out there, it's contained to there or in town. It didn't, like I said, we did not have any calls in town while I was there for 5 years. Be that as it may. I wanted to add that, just living in a city that allowed that we didn't have any. Everybody seemed to be responsible enough.
To charge them for 1 day, but that's my thought. Or just one time, try it.
And maybe like I said, maybe the third would be a better day for the town. It's just, you know, Robinson, they actually take a lot of pride in it, and it's great that, you know, everybody comes out of their houses, they're letting fireworks off through the whole town, and there's no problems over there. So Paul City's the same way. Holton, Sabetha, Seneca, everybody can do it except Hiawatha, Kansas. And I don't foresee that we're going to have people letting off big mortars and stuff during the day. It's literally going to be kids in their driveway letting fireworks off with their grandparents. And this is honestly the problem that I've had every year is people call and say,
I kind of look at the totality of the circumstances. I mean, since our last vote, the people that have reached out to me are glad that we made that decision to not allow it. I've not had one person say, "Oh, why didn't you pass that, or why didn't you vote for that?" I guess my reasoning for voting no in the city of Hiawatha is number one, veterans with PTSD. I've got experience in law enforcement. I know what it's like to deal with the fireworks in town. Experience with a nursing home, with Alzheimer and dementia patients, the elderly, the animals. There's a lot that goes into this decision, and that's why I just would not vote for it.
well, the biggest disruption that the town has is our celebration. That's the truth of it. And that's at night. And so I'm not really saying, I mean, I'm looking for during the day. You know, it's not going to be much. It's going to be, you know, 8 hours of mom and dad letting some fireworks off in their driveway. We're not talking mortars. We're, you know, PTSD, the kids getting, or the pets getting upset. That's going on when we let fireworks off.
It is.
I mean, that's just the truth of it. That's the one that the grandparents aren't going to like. We're limiting this to the kids doing it in their driveway. So I myself am not going to waste a mortar in the middle of the afternoon. That's just the truth of it. You know, we're setting fountains off and we're doing stuff like that. So I can't buy that pets are going to be disrupted and everything else, because we're doing with our celebration way more damage than the kids are going to be doing during the day. And that's why I'm saying, let's try it one day. I would almost ensure you that we're not going to have any problems. I mean, every other town around us does this. It's just, we need to remember what the 4th of July is all about. And we're celebrating our independence, but our local government is preventing that with code. So it's one day, I don't think it's going to hurt anybody. And like I said, I'm only saying in the afternoon before people go up to their fireworks stand up there. That's going to keep everybody up till 11 o'clock at night. Hey, let off some sparklers and stuff and do some stuff in your driveway. And but honestly, a lot of people do it already anyways. Like I said, I don't think we get probably many calls. Have we ever wrote a ticket or anything during the day for people setting fireworks off?
Sure.
Not last year.
How many calls we get a ton of calls and finding them and catching them is the hard part.
Right.
There wasn't one in 24, there was one or two in 24.
It's a big nuisance of chasing around most
Right.
of the firework and.
So, and that's why I'm saying, let's put a curfew on it and let's say noon, 11 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. When's our celebration start? 9:30 or something, you know?
Somewhere around there.
8 o'clock. That's just, it's an 8-hour window is all I'm asking. It's not gonna be huge. And like I said, I would probably actually say, let's do it on the 3rd before our celebration. Because most people, they can go to Robinson and let off all the fireworks they can anywhere in Robinson, and then they can do the Robinson celebration. But I think it'd be nice. We celebrate 4th of July on the 3rd. Let's open it up for the kids on the 3rd and have some fun.
Well, if you'd like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to allow fireworks on the 3rd of July before our fireworks from, let's say, noon to 8 o'clock at night.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and second to allow fireworks on July 3rd from noon to 8, correct?
Yeah.
As a trial.
As a trial. Is there any further discussion? If not, Don?
All in favor?
Uh,
All opposed?
I oppose it.
Aye.
Motion passed 3-2. Moving on to new business resolution 2025-08.
I'm sorry, can we go back? Is this a motion to suspend the fireworks discharge ordinance for 1 year, or do you want me to bring back a new ordinance on this?
Just for 1 year.
Okay.
And you said trial basis.
yeah, we can try.
A motion to suspend that.
It's a
Yeah.
step.
No. I understand.
It's resolution 25-08 volunteer firefighter personnel policy.
So I've had some discussions with Fire Chief Sheldon about the personnel policy for the city of Hiawatha. And what we do is that we have a page at the end of this that normally we have all city employees sign just saying, hey, they've read the policy, they understand what's in it. So the volunteer firefighters, and Patrick could probably get up and kind of help me with this as well. They're kind of uncomfortable with some of the portions of the policy that dealt solely with the full-time employees. And so the policy that I've presented to everybody here tonight is essentially it's all the legal things that we worry about at the city of Hiawatha, minus those full-time things. So the vacation time, sick time, all those things have been taken out. This is really a personnel policy that's geared strictly for the volunteer firefighters. I'll let Patrick, if you want to add anything to that. Did you have a chance to?
I still have not had a chance to review that, and I brought this to Brad. In years past, the city has gotten my signature, and I made sure that the firemen were in receipt of that policy. And I mainly did it for the benefit of everybody sitting up here, because if that was signed, and Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but by as a person signing that now makes them eligible for health insurance. You don't provide health insurance to the firemen. You don't provide vacation to the firemen, sick leave, funeral leave, on-time performance, those things we're not covered under. So that was me saying that, yes, the firemen received it. I will make sure that they don't do the things that they're not supposed to do, not post on social media. Don't drive like an idiot. Be responsible. Be responsible to the apparatus and the buildings and the equipment that we have. Those are the things that I'm concerned about, that those guys and gals are responsible for. So that's why I brought this to Brad. We got together, we went through it, and that's why it's in front of you today. Now, there again, I have not had a chance to read that. So, I mean, in my opinion, it was to cover everybody with the city that these guys signed it and they come up sick. Where's my sick leave? Where's my vacation?
So you're saying that you haven't had time to go over it?
I have not had time to go over the policy. I have not.
Why don't we table this until
I agree.
he can go over it with the guys and make sure that everybody's happy? If that's good. Right.
Sure, you're happy.
Make a motion to table this for 2 weeks until the fire department has time to review the document.
Second,
They moved in second to table the volunteer firefighter personnel policy till the next meeting. Any further discussion? Not done. Motion passed 5-0. Nothing under communications. Going on to department head comments. So Brad?
So there's going to be one more round of the MIH program for housing. I know that we were denied the last 3 times, I believe. There will be one more round this summer, and that'll be the final round of the MIH program itself. I've been working with the developers along with HEFID. One of the suggestions that they have out there for us is that we do some preliminary engineering work. So that'd be some preliminary planning, street plans, utility plans, things like that. That might help us with that MIH application. We haven't agreed to make that MIH application yet, but we do know that there is another round coming. I've been in contact with BG Consultants. As of right now, I don't have any price as to what that would cost. It's only we're going to have to weigh, okay, how much does it cost as opposed to, what kind of benefit do we see out of that? I don't have a number for you yet, so I really don't know what that could be. And so I just kind of want to let you know that's kind of the road that I'm going down as far as the housing program goes. HEFID has put back together their housing committee. We're going to be meeting 8 a.m. on Wednesday, and I'll have more information after that. Other than that, I just want to thank members of the Public Works, Dominic Greer, Ryan Smith, Joseph Carroll, all coming out and helping me on Saturday on very short notice. It is very much appreciated. And it's not just those members. I mean, when we have things that happen within the city of Hiawatha, we have no trouble getting people together to get things done. And I just want to make sure that, our employees are recognized when recognition is due, and I believe it is due in this case. So I'd really like to recognize them, and everybody does a really great job.
I'd like to say thank you too, because the public was very appreciative of that. So thank you coming out on Saturday to do that.
That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions for me directly.
Okay. Chief Cruiser?
Just the things we've been doing lately. We've done a lot of things at the schools with the kids. Got a list here that I gave you. They did do the mock DUI at the high school, and they haven't done that for a couple of years. We had the problem we had to deal with. Upcoming things we're doing, 8th graders are coming to the police department, and we got careers on wheels with the elementary school. And then we got the end of the year cookout to do with the elementary school. Community health fair is coming up, and we've scheduled some ALICE programs for the fall for the schools with Investigator Shoemaker and Captain Williams. But other than that, everything's okay. Questions, comments?
Thanks, chief.
All right, thank you.
Brad, did you have anything to add for Stacy?
I'd just like to give a little update about some of the progress that we've been making at the pool, especially a lot of the concrete is in, we're still waiting on the starting platforms. I've made quite a few orders. I know that there's been some items that I need to kind of revisit some of my own experience there and see where we could get some of the items that are needed for the pool. I've done that over the past week, made quite a few orders. Stacy has her list together. I've been in discussion with Stacy about the skate park itself, especially the boards at the skate park, kind of where we're at on that. And from what I understand, we have the boards that are ordered. We're waiting for them to come in, then they will be installed. And so I expect that to be done very shortly. Other than that, we did, I'm sure everybody knows, but we did have some vandalism at the skate park. That was very unfortunate. There are a lot of people work hard for that skate park. We're working hard to try to figure out ways, maybe putting some additional cameras at the skate park itself. That way we can have better footage of what is going on at that skate park. As of right now, I don't think that we have any footage of anything that's happened there. But we need to we're talking about putting additional cameras there. Other than that, I don't have any other updates from her.
Has she been pretty lucky on filling summer?
She has that. She was able to fill her summer staff.
Lifeguards and everything?
Yes.
That's fantastic. I know that's always a challenge. So,
Excuse me,
you have a question? Or?
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I'm done.
Have you had an opportunity to order parts for the water fountain at the skate park?
Yes, I have. Mhm.
Okay. Well,
Those are rare. You don't see water fountains often.
yeah. All right, Dominic.
First, I'm going to do water supervisor and light supervisor Ryan Smith's report. He couldn't be here tonight. It's pretty exciting with the new meters. It is. He had 8 water leaks this month. They read 1,050 meters. On the Neptune, training on the new software is going on right now. The girls downstairs and Ryan and Dawn, they're all training on that. Over 200 meters have been installed since last Friday. 2 gateways were installed for the new meter reading system on both towers. The collectors are on both towers now. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Is cool a word? It's pretty cool the way, I've sat down with Ryan and how all this is, this was coming. It had to be coming, but we needed this for a long time. The system is up and running. 2 lagoon fans installed from the winter. Fixed the pool fittings and gaskets. We're trying to get that up and going. And 70 locates and fixed water treatment pump problems. Right now, out to the water plant, I'll just name him out. Nick Seedmorgan has took a little project under his wing and with several other staff. And he's the way it regenerates the water. The water plant is 6.5 years old. That water that goes to the lagoon is just very briny. Well, we found out it was plugging. We got a pile of pumps. It's killing pumps. But Nick is designing how to stretch. I'll just say there's 90s where there should be straight pipe and stuff like that. But he's redoing it so it'll be easier on the pumps, pumping to the lagoons. That's, as we speak, is happening. And he's doing a good job of that. And several other employees are working with him on that project. That was all of Ryan Smith's report. But like I said, the Neptune meters are up and running, and it is very exciting. That's a word I want to use.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
It is. It's very exciting. And And they're still putting them in, obviously. On the public side, like I said, the meters, like I said, I'm just stoked. Ryan is stoked about it. I know Brad is too. Our Department of Labor violations list, we got them almost knocked out. That's due May 13th. I have to write that report to them. We're getting the pool up and ready. JMB Contractors has did an excellent job on the concrete work. And obviously we're still waiting on the starting blocks there. I mean, that work looks good at the pool. Sean Babb, street superintendent, has Jason Brown out to the burn pit, digging that out per KDHE. We have to dig that out every once in a while, but he's doing an excellent job out there on that. The country club, we've been for years trying to get that new VFD. It's just about there. The VFD, Andy Halpert's got to just tweak it. Bruce has torn parts off of it and put like a new butterfly valve and stuff. It's almost ready to go. I figure tomorrow or Wednesday it should be up and running. But the VFD, the variable frequency drive, will help from blowing the heads off at the country club. Right now, the pump just comes on, slams on, and they're fixing water leaks over there. But this will ramp it up very slow. We wanted to do this for years, and now it's a reality. But I know Sean's, that's all I have to say. But Sean Babb with Streets is here also.
I would like to add just one little tidbit of information for the public. When the water bills do come out, if you're used to your, especially since we're changing over to gallons, if you're used to your usage being like, say, 800 cubic feet, what you're going to see on your bill is going to be more like 5,600. The price is going to be the same, but I think that number is going to shock a lot of people. I mean, it's just, it'll be what you're using in gallons instead of cubic feet. But, I don't want people to get too upset over the number. The price will be the same. But it's still, that's what is going to be going on, is just that change to gallons instead of cubic feet. And people will start seeing that on this bill that we're sending out this month.
The usage is the same.
Usage is the same. It's just the way it's the same amount. It's just the same. It's just the way it's the unit.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. I just kind of want to put that as a piece of public information. If you see it, know that's the reason why.
Thank you.
Sean, did you have anything to add for streets and lights?
Anyway, like Dominic said, we're working on the burn pit to keep in compliance, because if we don't, KDHE can come and shut it down. So we got to keep it going. Haven't been done in a while, and they're working on the Department of Labor stuff, like Dominic said too. I've been hauling rock for all three departments, street, sewer, and water. We're trying to get some of our roads fixed up, like going to the sewer sites, and I'm going to be working on that throughout the summer. Street sweeper repairs. I've had a lot of questions about that. Parts slow to get, but it's in our shop, and we're working on that. On off times when it rains and stuff, and we can't do anything outside. And then Wednesday of this week, I'm going to McPherson, Kansas, to get my training for certification to be a CDL trainer. So if we bring somebody in who doesn't have CDL, I can train them before they go and make it a lot easier on them. Then they don't have to go for a 3-week class and pay $6,000 to get it. So that's what we got.
No. What about the lighting out at Brennan Park? Have we done anything with those poles that have fallen over and so?
Those poles that have fallen over. I'm still waiting to hear back from the company that we talked to about replacing those lights and, haven't heard from them yet.
Is the street sweeper broke down? I'm sorry.
No. Should be.
It needs a lot of maintenance. It's getting to be 5 years old. It's just wear parts. So it sort of works now, but I want it to really work, that's what we paid for, but
Yeah.
we just need to do a lot of needed maintenance on it that comes with the hours that it has on it now. Like every 1,000 hours, you gotta do this and that, and that's where we're at. So
You have like a projected time that it would.
hopefully by the end of May. Because I'm gonna need it for, we're gonna do a lot of hot patch work around town this summer. So I'm gonna need it to, prep stuff to get, some of these Mondo.
I had someone
Holes,
ask me if they were gonna clean streets this year or not.
Yep.
I said, yeah.
We started having problems with it in the fall, and that's kind of a bad time to have problems with it. And like I said, parts, they're not as readily available as we was told when we purchased the machine. So, they say, oh yeah, we got everything you need in Topeka. In fact, they do
They
not.
don't.
So.
Thank you.
Yep.
How long do you need? Oh, I'm sorry. Wasn't gonna let you come up here. Maybe disappointed if you couldn't.
I just did a couple little highlights of what the sewer department did or wastewater or whatever. We always do the monthly samples every day, every month, and then EDMR, that goes to KDHE, and obviously we do the rounds and samples every day. We dug up a sinkhole on the north side of the elementary fence. It was there a little longer than I expected, but we got it done. We had to use the counter to settle a dispute. There was a sinkhole. The guy said it wasn't his problem, but we found out where the problem was, and it was his problem. We marked 2 first names that was for Knudsen at the ball field out was it Noble? And then scraped and prepped the police fountain. It's not going yet, but I shouldn't say it's not the top of my priority list, but we're working on it. Installed a butterfly valve for the country club. Installed a vacuum primer plant at Cluppy's lift station. There's a new one. The old one cracked out. Tomorrow we'll be replacing a saddle and cork stop at the south plant, which is the country club building. And chasing beaver at the south plant. That was an interesting thing. There's a lot of beaver inside of a 13-foot pit. Yeah, it was, yeah. And Rusty and Drake, I had them help read meters, and because it was a lot, clean the moss and maintain the main plant, and then that's about it. Any questions?
Do you know if that valve shipped for the project out there?
I'm not sure, but I think Dominic said there was something that.
There are 2 outlets out there, but.
I'm not saying it was the valve.
I didn't open the box.
Okay.
I called Les.
It was not that valve.
And,
No, it was like a 90 and probably looked like some kind of tapping saddle to me, so.
But they did get the drip pump all set, and they're just waiting on some piping to connect all that. So they've been moving along. So
Good.
Good.
Time's running out.
yeah.
Again,
So,
thank you.
all right, thank you.
Okay, Brad, how long?
5 minutes.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that the city commission recess into executive session in the conference room for a period of 5 minutes to discuss matters regarding an issue of potential city personnel. Justification for closing the meeting is to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. The open meeting will resume at 6:44 in the commission chambers, and to include the commission, the city administrator, and city attorney.
Second.
Moving to second, any further discussion? Not Don?
Favor?
Aye. Motion passed 5-0. 46, the city commission is called back into open meeting. The commission took no binding action during an executive session.
Second.
Moving second, any further discussion? Don? Aye. Motion passed 5-0. Moving on to governing body comments. I have none. Dave?
I don't have anything.
Tom?
I don't have anything.
Brian?
Nope.
Doug?
Nothing.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Moving second to adjourn. Don? Aye. Motion passed 5-0.